This is Chad Borkwin, and this is the Dream Big series. I am a professional musician and recording artist that has been fortunate enough to learn how to get paid doing what I love. But this didn't just happen for me. In fact, I have years of doing things other than music that have all played a part of the success I get to experience now. But more importantly, I've learned the value of having the right people speak into my life and how that is the key to breaking free of old limiting habits. So if you're tired of being stuck and you believe there is more for you in life, the good news is everything I've done is a result of what I've learned, and it can be taught. Join us as we bring topics and guests onto this show to provide you with valuable insights on how to get to your big dream. This is the Dream Big series. Welcome to the show. All right, welcome to the Dream Big series. We are here with Brandon Miller. Brandon has risen to quite a success in his career, traveling all over the world with his music, and really excited for this interview because there's so many good things that I think we can learn from Brandon, just in how he from the point he started to where he's at now. So, Brandon, we originally met in your high school. Mm-hmm. When my brother and I were playing in a group that played there, and you came up to the table.
Yeah.
And so. And then, do you remember that?
Slightly,
yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
I was in high school at the time, and the group you were with, you would come to high schools, and you would play and also talk about, different motivational stuff and finances and, just how to be a good person. And at the time, I was starting to play out a lot more. Me and my buddies in high school had a band, and we'd sit in the back of the auditorium and be like, what kind of gear are they using? They're not playing that right. Being naive,
which was probably accurate.
High school kids. So we're still trying to figure it out. But yeah, and then we came up and chatted afterwards, and didn't put two and two together until, like you said, the next time we met. Was by chance. We were doing a kind of a lighting ceremony for the holidays and everything, and I initially didn't get the call, but a good friend of mine had put my name in the hat when he couldn't do the gig, and turns out I walked into your house and rehearsing in the basement, and sometime at the end of rehearsal or at the gig, I was like, you came to my high school, didn't you? And you performed, and sure enough, however, a short amount of years later, we're now here doing the interview, of course.
Right. Yeah, and so what was super impressive to me about that scenario in my basement and how that led to that was Scotty McBee, the guy that recommended you, is known as the guy that can play anything on about any instrument almost.
Yes.
And so that's that, I knew that, and that's why I called him. The fact that he recommended you was huge, because you were not very old even at this point.
Yeah.
And yet you had already gotten yourself to the point where you were the first guy recommended by him. What led there? What happened between that school concert and that caused that?
Yeah, I at a young age, I started playing when I was 7. My parents got me a guitar for Christmas, and then until I was about 13, I played at home a lot. From the moment I woke up until I went to school, I would go to school, get home, and play guitar until I went to bed, basically. And, oftentimes I would fall asleep playing guitar, and then, of course, the summertime would come, and it would be from sunrise till sunset playing guitar, listening to my dad's records, and it just seemed to never stop. And my parents were extremely supportive and started taking me to concerts.
Still are.
And still are.
Yeah.
Extremely supportive. And they started taking all of us kids to concerts. By the time I was 9 or 10 years old, we were seeing Kiss and Aerosmith, Tom Petty and Rush, and just these huge concerts on such a big production level, to where it's like, yeah, you can be this guy in the bar or the small club or this theater, or just the guy, bands in the park, whatever you want. But if you want and you work hard enough and you dream big enough, you can get to this and play in front of 20,000, 30,000 people, you know, with the stage and the lights and the fire and everything. You know, so that really, I was really driven by that, wanting to get to that level. And when I met Scotty and started playing out more, I went from still playing at home as much as possible, but just to playing with as many people as I could. I would go to, you know, every night of the week, I would try to find a different jam or an open mic night and just play with as many people as I could. I mean, I was playing with, you know, 5 or 6 bands at a time and just doing all these gigs because I felt you get to a certain point where as a musician you can only grow so much until you start to play with other people, and then you start to listen and communicate, and then your knowledge of the music and your instrument grows even more. And Scotty had always taught me, you know your instrument better than, you know, anybody else around you, and, you know, just song repertoire. He always said, he was like, know as many songs as you can, you know, all the keys, scales, everything you can. So at a young age, I learned that, and it was just kind of engraved into my brain that I needed to know as much as I could to where I could play any gig that I could at any time that may arise, just much like Scotty can, you know,
Right.
whether it was rock or country, blues or jazz, you know, heavy electric guitar or acoustic. And even with guys like Scotty and Brett and Justin and Guy, you know, all in that scene, it was like not only learn guitar, but learn how to play bass, because we may need a bass player, we may need a drummer, or we may need, you know, and then that led to singing, because if you're going to be in a band, you have to know how to sing, whether it's backup vocals or lead vocals or anything. So playing with those guys and really anybody I've played with has always left a positive, you know, note on just, you know, doing as much as you can to further yourself as a musician.
There's a lot there that we could pull out of this. I want to come back to some of this here in a second, but real quick, can you lead us to how then, you know, you're traveling all over the world now, the country and the world with Daniel Nicole.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
With Danielle, it was, you know, towards the end of high school, I started to dive more into blues music and roots music, and that led me to going up to a lot more blues jams around town. And the first time I had met Danielle, I was probably 16 years old, and I would go to, they would host a jam every Wednesday when they were in town, which at that time it was, you know, getting less and less with their touring. But they would play a place called the Eclipse in Raytown every Wednesday, and you know, it was like right around when I got my license, so my parents would drive me out there, and I would jam with them with Trampled Underfoot. And, you know, Mike, the owner, would leave the back door of the bar open because I wasn't supposed to be in there because it was a bar and I was underage. And so he'd be like, you're going to sit by me next to the bar, and if for some reason the police come in the front door, you run out the back door and we're all good. So I would get up, you know, every Wednesday, and they would offer me to play, and I'd have to play usually within the first hour, and then I'd get the boot. So Danielle and I met, you know, that would have been around 2006, and just kind of kept in touch, you know, knew each other around town and would play different gigs or festivals together. But it wasn't until, you know, I think it was probably 2013, we played a blues festival here in town, and my band played earlier in the day, and Trampled Underfoot headlined. So, and we were also, my dad and I had a production company, so we were running sound for the festival that day. and just kind of kept working all day. And then Trampled Underfoot showed up, and I was kind of incognito in my production gear of, hat and work clothes. But then it got to their set, and she was like, hey, haven't seen you in a while. You want to get up and jam? I got up and jammed, had a great time. And then a month or two later, they had 2 shows here in Kansas City at BB's Lawnside Barbecue. And Danielle called me and said, Nick and his wife were expecting their second child. And so he was going to take a few weeks off, and asked if I could fill in on guitar. Did those gigs, had a great time. And then a week later, she called me and, told me that Trampled Underfoot was splitting up and she was going to start a solo project, and asked if I would be interested in doing that. And of course, right away I said, I don't know, I'll have to think about it. Hung up the phone and already knew what my answer was.
Right.
And then, so we started playing. We played a few shows in 2014 when in the last year of Trampled Underfoot. And then started off in 2015 doing that full time. Touring the country and the world with her, and been doing it ever since and loving it, really having a blast. And now we're in Europe quite a bit. This year we went over 3 times this year, and we're planning on doing at least that next year. So it's really good.
All right, Brandon, so we're gonna dive into some of this deeper. I definitely want to know, some of the things that really, your thought processes on this. What led to these things, because there's a lot that I'm sure you could share with this. Real quick, we're gonna jump to a quick commercial. We've got a free a free ebook to help artists
Awesome.
Learn how to build a music business successfully. So we'll be right back.
Perfect.
Okay. The music industry is drastically changing, and for the better. The power to have a successful music career is in your hands and no longer up to a few gatekeepers. The key is having the right information, the right tools, and committing to do the work. I want to help you jumpstart your career with my free ebook called Play Music, Make More. This free ebook is everything we've done with our own group, as well as what I've learned being an entertainment agent, and it's all played into the success we've had as independent artists. Visit playmusicmakemore.com to get your free copy today. All right, so one of the things I heard in this deal is you have, and this is starting to be a common theme among interviewees, which is really cool because I'm glad this is getting out, is you've said yes to the right opportunities pretty quickly, even if it's just you want to come up on stage and jam with us. I mean, do you ever feel moments of fear in those, or is it excitement, or is it just like, nope, I'm going to do this no matter what?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much all the time it's just I'm going to do it no matter what,
right?
And then after the fact you can turn around and see if it worked or it didn't. But I would rather deal with that afterwards instead of dealing with the fear of the unknown, basically.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys I talked to at an early age had and dealt with the fear of the unknown. Mm-hmm. They were like, I could have gone for it and been a full-time musician and moved to New York or LA or Nashville, but I didn't. And they're like, not necessarily, they don't regret it, but they're like, well, I could be, touring with a big band, or I could be a session player somewhere or producer, but, I kind of took the safe road and just stayed home instead. So I, and that's something my parents always reiterated to me, was just, go for it, and whatever happens, we'll be here, and, we'll be here to catch you if you fall. So I've just always had that mindset to just go for it and say yes.
All right, so that's good. You led me here, and you've obviously had a lot of successes happen out of that. What about the few times that maybe this didn't work? How did you navigate that after it didn't? And maybe do you even have a story that jumps in your mind for that, or?
there's been several times where on paper it feels right, whether it's like taking the right gig or filling in with the right band, and you're like, okay, they seem to have their stuff together and professional on, like, the songs they sent out and getting you the set list, and it's going to be this and everything's going to be perfect, and you show up, and whether it's rehearsal or just straight to the gig, and you show up and like nobody's there and they're late, or they don't come as prepared as what you are, and you're just filling in and they're the regular band. So that is one of those where I've always been taught to be over prepared in those situations too. It's like, for instance, it was one of the things, especially when I had filled in with you guys a couple times, where it's like, obviously, you're the lead guitar player, but it's like I can play the electric part or I can play the acoustic part on this song, or, maybe mandolin to change it up, and, backing vocals here and there. But there have been times where it's like, you're sitting in with the regular band and you're the most prepared out of anybody. So yeah, that has happened where you sit back and you're like, okay, well, next time I'll think about the gig before I take it immediately.
What kind of preparation do you go through for over prepared? I mean, what are like the specifics of what you'll do?
Just knowing the songs and is first and foremost. Obviously, whether they take it and learn it just like the original, or you get to where you can play this song and then they're like, yeah, the original is in A, but we're going to do it in C, so just get to where you know it in and out, where you can transpose it at any given moment. And knowing, I try my hardest to not only learn the music behind it, but the lyrics as well, because it's, telling a story. So if you can tell the story, the music will come with it. And that way you can listen and follow, the band leader and the band itself. And early on when I was, in band class in middle school and high school, it was always one of those, directors that would be like, you don't want to learn it to get it to where it's good enough. You want to learn it to where you don't make a mistake, and that's just one of those, famous quotes that just gets passed on from musician to musician. It's like, no, you want to get it and know it so well that you don't make a mistake, so, you just are constantly. And most of the time I don't, it's like I'll sit down and play with certain things. But most of the time it's just listening to a song, kind of over and over, and you hear those chord changes and those progressions and the melodies. And just like the ear listening is much more important to me than actually sitting down with a guitar and trying to learn it with the guitar. You can almost, write down the song without even ever playing it.
So if we transition now a little bit to the business side, at least from our perspective, watching from the outside in now with Daniel Nicole band and everything you guys have going on, there seems to be a machine there that's starting to really pick up some steam. Yeah. What are you, what have you seen in that's allowed that to happen? Is there some managers there that are helping, some agents? How much you guys doing a lot of this yourselves? We went through the early years of the band with Danielle. It was there were agents and managers in place to take care of everything for us, and it was like, okay, you guys are hired to do this job, so we're going to let you do this job, and we're just going to go play music and do that. But it got to a point where you start to notice things weren't getting done, or they, weren't getting done on time or as well as what they should be. So there's just been some transitions where certain people aren't there anymore, whether it's on stage or, in the management level, and some things are just kept more in-house.
where we can see what's going on a daily basis and according to the management or the booking or, you know, websites and social medias and just a lot of day-to-day stuff. You know, there's still certain things we lean on for, you know, certain issues when it comes to booking or management, but we really saw the band take a step in the right direction when we had, you know, more of a direct one-on-one relationship with people, you know, whether that's the fans, you know, and it's like with the social media and everything where, and they really remember that too, you know, and that's the one thing that as much as the world and technology has evolved and you get away from a one-on-one personal relationship with people, music is the one thing, you know, at least with a live show, that brings people together and they can have that, and they need to feel that one-on-one connection, you know, and that's what really has kind of pushed us forward over the last 2 years, is that one-on-one connection that people feel at the shows, before the show, after the show. You know, they can reach out to us anytime, and we're still there, and, you know, trying to catch up and do that. But I think that's been the most important thing, is just seeing people at the shows and recognizing them and acknowledging that every person is important, you know.
Well, you guys have obviously done a great job at that. And you've taken on, you know, much of the business side too, which it sounds like. And it's interesting, you know, you hear artists say, if I could just dish some of this off, I could focus more on music, and this thing would grow faster. But you just said the opposite.
Yeah.
So, which it makes a lot of sense, because it's about the connection.
Yeah.
The other thing I've noticed online is, you know, with people like MF Photography and every other photographer that shows up, you guys have some of the most killer pictures pop up that of anybody I see.
Yeah.
You know, and part of that, both of you just have you know, a look. Now, you transitioned that.
A little bit.
Yeah.
From time to time.
Well, I mean, there was a point where, you know, you went from being Brandon to all of a sudden rock star Brandon, as far as just the image look. What caused that? Why'd you do that? And I mean, I don't think I have to even say what the benefit is, because we can see it. But I'd love if you have some insight on that.
You know, it was one of those kind of just younger, naive things where it's like, I'm just going to play guitar and people are here for the music and that's it. So I don't have to worry about, you know, how I dress or what I look like. And then it was about the time that we started, you know, getting more involved in the day-to-day stuff, where we realized, or at least I did, you know, that image, it's like, you know, if they wanted it just to be about the music, they could sit at home and listen to the CD, and they don't have to look at us, but they're paying a ticket and coming to the show for the visual effect as well. So it's like, you know, you're putting on a show, so you have to look good and sound good, and, you know, it's the whole package as a musician and a band. You know, if you're just some, you know, overweight, you know, whatever, like, and you just don't look good, you know, it's like, cool, it was great music, but, you know, I don't want to sit and look at that for the next 2 hours, or for whatever reason, you know. And then it comes into the stage show and the lights and the feel of the stage, and it all ties in together, where you have you're presenting it, the whole package, you know, as, you know, an artist, a musician, the band. This is the whole product. You're not just getting, you know, some kid that can play guitar, you know.
So it's 105 degrees out. You're telling me you're not going to wear cargo shorts?
I will never wear cargo shorts. I can remember, I think one time maybe once or twice I wore shorts, and I highly regret that. But I don't think anybody showed up, so there may not be any
There's no evidence
of
so
that.
It really
luckily.
it didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
Yeah, right.
No, it was a dream.
Is there any specific advice you give to somebody just kind of starting out right now? You know, maybe where you were when you were a kid, what would you, or let's do this. What would you give your 16-year-old self? What advice would you say to yourself if you could tell Brandon at 16 anything? Based on what you know today.
I would say learn how to sing at a younger age, for me personally. Mm-hmm. And learn piano. Those are definitely two things that I regret. I mean, I didn't start singing until I was 17 or 18, and I could have been further along, I think, if I would have sang at a younger age. But my family is a little more reserved in that way, so it was like, mm-hmm. we would go to the concerts and we would see the shows, but it's like, I don't think you would ever see us, all singing together in the car or around the house. Like, that wasn't anything we did. So singing would definitely be one for me. But on a general side of things, it would have to be just play with as many people as you can, and the interaction is as much, if not more, helpful to your playing than just knowing the scales and knowing the chords and everything. It's music is about the interaction with people, whether it's the other musicians on stage or whoever is listening, so don't be afraid to go out and try things at a jam or an open mic night or wherever it may be. Just get out and play is the main thing.
Man, this has been good.
It's great. Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate you doing this, and we're having a blast watching all your success. So
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Brandon Miller.
I absolutely loved this interview with Brandon Miller, and one of the things that we would like to do for our guest and ask your help with this is to just show them love online. Find them on your favorite social media platform. Follow them. Tell them that you listen to the podcast. Give your thoughts even for that. You can find Brandon Miller's all of his social links by going to his website first, which is brandonmillerkc.com. While you're at it, also go to DanielleNicoleMusic.com, which is the artist that Brandon plays with that he mentioned in the interview as well. We will also include links to all of these in the show notes as well. One last thing, if you know artists out there that are working to make it in this music industry, and this, when I say that, I mean they are either, they're weekend warriors or they are really going after this full time, and you think that they would benefit from this podcast, please, share this with them. We want to help as many artists as possible to reach their goals. We've had great guests already, and we have so many lined up to come. We appreciate you being here, and we'll leave you with this. If you're going to take the time out of your day to dream, why not dream big? You've been listening to the Dream Big series. We would love to hear from you, so please leave us a comment on your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to visit us at dreambigseries.com for more podcast videos and blogs. Also, let us know if you would like to bring the Dream Big series event to your school, corporation, or organization. Thank you for listening to the Dream Big series.